So here we are, folks, getting to the point where we're going to wrap up this InDesign layout and send it through Preflight, and then package all of the contents, the PDF, the InDesign file, all of the fonts, and all of the graphics and images used in this file. So we need to make sure that everything was done correctly. And how do we know that? Just by looking at the file, it's hard to see, or it's even hard to imagine all the things that we're supposed to look for. So InDesign has a built-in flight checker, Preflight, to run through some basic checks to make sure that you have things dialed in. Down in the lower left-hand side here, I have a little dot that says one error. And when I click on that drop-down menu, I can call up my Preflight panel, which will show me any of the basic issues that InDesign looks for when Preflight is turned on, which it is by default. You can also access that Preflight window by going under the Window menu, going to Output, and choosing Preflight there. So here in my Preflight panel, it's giving me a heads up that I've got an issue with text. Now, I'm in full screen mode, and if I go to the bottom of my toolbar here and go into normal mode by clicking on the bottom little icon, or use the letter W, this is going to switch between preview mode, which is what I see when I print, and then my normal working mode, which shows me my grids and guides and bounding edges. Here, when I'm in preview mode or full screen mode here, I don't see any of the issues because a lot of the warning things are shut off. So I always like to go back to my normal mode, which is what we typically work in. And let's check out and see what the problem is based on our Preflight panel. Here it says that I've got a text issue. So if I open up the text, it says I've got overset text. Open that up. It says it's got a text frame. So I click on the text frame and I go to the number 1 here, which is the page where it's at. I click on that 1 because that is a link, and it puts the selected container or offending item directly in the center of my screen on that page. Here at the bottom of my panel, the info, if it's not open, click on the twirly and see the info. It tells me the problem, and it tells me exactly how to fix the problem. So here I realize my text container was too small and I had overset text. And now that says there are no errors. Well, what does no errors actually mean? Well, it doesn't mean a whole lot when you're using the basic working profile. And the basic working profile is just a very limited set of rules that says, hey, look for these few basic things when you run the Preflight. Well, what are those basic things that they look for? Under the Preflight panel, click on the drop-down menu and choose Define Profiles. When you define the basic profile, it will come up with a whole list of items here: general, links, color, images, objects, text, and document. Here, this is the basic profile that's saved. And we go into general, this is what the basic profile looks for. Any linked item that is missing or modified, text that's overset, which it just found us, a missing font, or a live caption that's unresolved. That's it. That's all this profile does. It doesn't look for color spaces that are incorrect, or transparency, or type that has been stretched, or images that have been stretched. Nothing else. So this is very basic. So there could be other issues or concerns in this file. It's just that the basic settings only allow us for this. Here are their links. Only missing or modified links, or any URL that does not complete. In terms of color, it doesn't go and flag or look at any color issues whatsoever because none of these boxes are checked. So anything that I do with color here that could be non-printing or doesn't work right, nothing's checked here, so it's not going to go ahead and flag any of those. Any images or objects here, it doesn't flag any of those whatsoever, so if it's too big or too small or stretched disproportionately, or you have an image that's too big and the resolution is too low, any items like that, it doesn't flag because none of these are checked. The text, it's if there's any overset text or missing fonts, that's great, but it's not going to tell me if there's any spelling errors in here. Well, that could be a big thing. Any paragraph or character styles that are overridden, and I know this file has it because I see the overrides right here in the green highlight. But because this basic profile does not have that checked, it won't flag those things. So I've created other profiles here so that I could set up different sets of parameters for me to go through and look and pre-flight my files. Now, we have other basic profiles that we can load right here, but we can also make our own. And the way we make our own is you simply click on the plus, and it comes up with a new profile, and then you go through into the boxes and you check the things that you would want to flag in the file. So maybe you're using a color space that isn't allowed. Maybe we don't want to have spot colors, so we do that. Maybe when we're going through with our images and objects here, maybe we want to make sure our image resolution is high enough so we don't have objects that are too small. Maybe somebody's gone in there and placed those objects and skewed them off or scaled them disproportionately. Maybe you've got a layer that's turned off, okay? So you don't even know it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn this on. What about text? Well, the basics of text, overset text or missing fonts. But what about any paragraph or style overrides? Okay, what about spelling errors? That could be good too. Any non-proportional type scaling? Yeah, somebody stretches type, bad idea. So once I create my new pre-flight profile here, I'm just going to call it my pre-flight profile. I'm going to save. And I click OK and get out of that. Now nothing changes here because we haven't changed the profile or the set of parameters that we just created to go through our file here with our newly set up list of items. When I choose this pre-flight profile, all of a sudden this whole list of items comes up. And when people look at this, they're like, oh my gosh, there's all these things that are wrong. Well, it's not necessarily that they're wrong. These are just warnings to look for. So here in the text, I go through and I see that there's 5 style overrides. Okay, well, the style overrides come from your paragraph or character styles panel. And when you click on this style override button, the A+ in the brackets here, this just shows you any styles highlighted in this blue that don't match the styles that have been created in the paragraph styles. Now, you may have gone in and done something to some text and edited that outside of the style, and the style override in blue shows up. I'm just going to go back to that style, right-click on the style that isn't fully applied, apply that style again, clear any overrides, and the problem goes away. Let's take a look throughout the entire document and find out where there's some style overrides. Ah, I see one here. The little circle R. It's just been superscripted. Well, if I take my style off of this or clear that, then I get a bigger circle R, and maybe somebody went in and just superscripted it, and so something like that, the style override probably isn't a big deal. Here I see a couple style overrides because somebody went in and they didn't select the entire copy. When they applied a style, they skipped over that paragraph return. How do I know? Because I should have had my hidden characters turned on, and because it was a space, they didn't think that they needed to highlight that space or that return, but that could be a totally different font or size from everything else. So here, I just reapply that override, and once I do, that fixes it and takes it out of my list of items here. Here, I just have an extra return where it's override, so that's now gone. Okay, so I've cleared my overrides out of that. Now, not everything is going to need to be cleared. I understand here, oh, wait a second, this headline here, there's something different. There's my header. I'm going to clear the overrides. Great. I know this one, this bullet style doesn't match my other bullet styles because this copy's a lot bigger. But this is only used once in the entire document and it all looks good, so I'm not going to go in and really fuss about this style. If this occurred in multiple places in my document where this size and font and bullets were used, I would most certainly create a style. But my rule is, if I use it once and their style is not applied to it, that's fine. But if I use it twice, I'm going to make sure that style is correct. So I also have some dynamic spelling problems. Well, dynamic spelling problems are what? What's a dynamic spelling problem? Well, in order to turn on your spelling or your dynamic spelling, you can go under the Edit menu, under Spelling, and choose Dynamic Spelling. Dynamic spelling is going to allow you to see areas that are not capitalized, anything that is going to be green. So if I come in here and I do a lowercase and I do something like that, that green shows me that it's not capitalized, so I can simply go in and capitalize that. Anything that's red is going to be what it flags as a misspelled word. Well, obviously this is a proper name right here, so of course it's not going to be in my dictionary. So pre-installed is one of those things where it's like, okay, is pre-installed a word? Yeah, it's spelled right. But what happens if I accidentally spell something wrong and do something like this? And whoops, so I do that, and it comes up with a misspelling. I see the red, so you simply put your cursor in there, right-click, choose from a list of the things that you'd like to spell correctly, and that word gets spelled correctly. Now, anytime you have a misspelled word here, it will just flag it as a general dynamic spelling problem. Okay? So here we've got a couple things, and I'm not concerned about these spelling problems. Or, let's check out pre-installed. So it doesn't, I don't know that it knows what pre-installed is. I right-click, and yeah, for some reason it's not understanding what pre-installed is. Okay? Let's check out what's going on with my images and objects here. Oh, image resolution here. If I click on this one, I look at that, and this image resolution is too low. So they sent me a low resolution image. So it's not going to print very well, and I could go back to the client and say, do you have a higher resolution image? Which I did, and they didn't. So I'm kind of stuck with using this image. Okay. Color issues here. I had set several things where color space wasn't allowed, and so apparently there is a color being used in here that is a color that I'm not supposed to be using in my file, and so it's actually using a spot color, which is what I told it to warn me about. But in this case, I'm going to go beyond that simply because when I create a PDF, it's going to convert that color, and it's no longer going to be an issue. So the pre-flight panel actually tells me what's going on. Does a really good job. Now I know that I haven't solved all these problems because some of these problems are not something that is going to be solvable. Like the word masked doorman. Okay, well that's not a word in the English language. That's two words and they're spelled correctly. So that dynamic spelling problem won't go away. This is just to give me a heads up and make sure that I'm paying attention to things that I may not pay attention to in the long run. Now, once my pre-flight is done and I'm happy with everything here, I notice that I'm in my links panel. There's no missing or modified links, which is very good because if there were any modified links, you'd want to click on that modified triangle that will show up here to make sure you have the most current one. Or if there is a stop sign here showing you that it's missing, you double click on that stop sign and make sure you find and navigate to where that link is so that it puts it back in. Once you're done, you're going to save this entire file, and now we're ready to go in and we're ready to package it. Well, what is packaging? Well, if I were to send this InDesign file to somebody and they open it up, they may not have the fonts. So they'll get a warning saying the fonts that are missing, and they'll all show up highlighted in pink. And if you go to edit it and print it, it's not going to look the same as the designer had intended. What about the images? Well, the preview of the images will be in there, but if they go to print, the quality of the image is going to look terrible, and same with the logo, because if you don't have those images packaged with the file so that it can go and reach out and link to them and take all the data and load it while it's printing, it's going to look terrible like this. So we need to package this. So here's what we do. We save it first, because if you don't save it, it's going to ask you to save it. We're going to go into the File menu and down to the bottom and choose Package. When you package, it's going to go and it's going to gather all the fonts and all your links and images here and put it all together. Now, this package window right here is a much older window that came years before we ever had the pre-flight panel. So here, I rely on the pre-flight panel to truly tell me what's wrong here. These little warning signs here, I pay attention to the pre-flight panel. I don't pay attention to them here. So I'm going to click Package, and then it say, okay, where do you want to go and package and put all this information? Well, let's look at what actually gets collected here. At the bottom of our mask control, what we have is we want to copy all of the fonts. And all of the fonts would mean any fonts that are on my system that your system may not have. Now, if the designer has used any Adobe fonts, when you open up that file, it will automatically activate those fonts through your Adobe type, and it will load them in. But it will also not collect any CJK fonts, which is Chinese, Japanese, or Korean fonts. Don't know why it won't collect those, but it doesn't. I also want to copy all of my linked graphics. All of the graphics that are here in my links panel have to be copied in order to go along with this file to be able to edit, print, publish, or export to a PDF. I also want to update the graphics links in the package. So when it packages the whole thing, it then goes within the folder where everything's packaged and relinks to the images in that folder so that when I open it up, it doesn't look for those images on your hard drive. Use the document hyphenation exceptions. Sure, keep it there just in case you've changed your hyphenation exceptions. And include fonts and links from hidden or non-printing content. This is important. What happens if you turned a layer off? Well, if you turn a layer off, InDesign ignores anything that's on that layer. Anything. And so if you turn it off and there's content, a text, or an image, it doesn't collect it. Not a good idea. So just keep everything checked. Down here, include an IDML file. Well, an InDesign file, an IDML is an InDesign markup language, which allows this package process to write a version of the file that is backward compatible for somebody else that may not be running your same version. Now, if they're running a newer version than you're running, they'll open it no problem. If you don't include the IDML file and they have an older version of InDesign, they won't be able to open the file. So you open the IDML file. And of course, we always want to include a PDF of which you can then go in and set your selected PDF presets here. Here, I'm going to use high quality print. And the only reason why this is modified is, I'll show you when we go under export to export as a PDF, that I've checked an extra box in there that just says, show me the PDF before, or when it's done processing, it'll show me the PDF. Now I'm ready to go ahead and package. It's going to put it into a folder where I want it to be. So I click package and it says, hey, you know, there's fonts that are missing. And it's like, oh my gosh, where's that font that's missing? And I can't just click OK. I need to replace that font and make sure. So someplace in my document, there is this font being used. Now it's odd that it didn't come up here in pre-flight, but it says it obviously has this font someplace. It could just be a space or something, but I definitely have to pay attention to this. So I'm going to click on this, Code Pro LC Regular, and I'm going to say, where is it? Well, for some reason it's being used in here, and I thought I had, made that Avenir Next Condensed, and I see that paragraph style comes up, and it shows that it's being used in there, and I don't know, maybe it was a space or something that wasn't selected that I didn't see. Well, I'm going to go in, and I know that this is Avenir Next Condensed Regular, so I'm going to choose this font, and I'm going to make it Avenir Next Condensed Regular. And I know that this copy that's highlighted is this paragraph style. Since I know that it's highlighted here and this is highlighted here, what I'm going to do is when they change the font, I'm going to say redefine that style when changing it. And the reason why is because if I go and remove this font and apply this font, then my style is going to be incorrect. I will have gone in and basically modified my font outside of that style. But when I say redefine the style here, it says, oh, I get it. When you replace this font here in this with this style, we're basically redefining the style but doing it through here. So I'm going to say change all the occurrences. Great. It didn't change my copy. There's no highlights or overrides on this. No missing fonts right there. I'm going to click done. Whew. So thankfully, that was all taken care of. Now, by doing that, because I was in the middle of packaging, I still have to go through and package this up. Now, usually when we package and there's no issues, it's going to sail right through. So it wants me to save this. I package it. We talked about all these things. I click package. Good. No warning sign like that missing font. And it runs through very quickly and packages absolutely everything. So now let's take a look at that package. I'm going to go under File, Open again, and there is my packaged file right here. There's the name of my folder. There is my IDML file, which allows me to have backward compatibility, my actual InDesign file, the PDF that it made, all of my links in the file right here, which is great, and all of the fonts that are not part of the Adobe Font Kit. So these were off my hard drive. This is wonderful. So this is my entire package right here, and this is what I would zip or compress and then send off to the new owner, the client, and they would be able to open up and make it work. Now what's interesting with this is what happens if they don't have the font on their machine. Well, when you send them the package, if they open up this InDesign file from this folder, it will automatically look inside this folder for a folder called Document Fonts, and it will auto-activate those fonts when you open the InDesign file from within this folder. Once you close out of the file, the fonts will be deactivated. So they make it very nice and easy for the end user to be able to go in and open and use those InDesign files without a whole bunch of hassle. And then you can simply print, you can make a PDF or make any edits from here. That simple. So that's basically pre-flight and package. Now, if you want just to simply make a PDF of your final file, just to see how that works, super simple way to do it. Now, when you package it, you can include a PDF, but just to make a PDF, go into the File window, go under Export, ask where you want that PDF to be made. We're going to have a PDF for print in this purpose. Going to click Save. And then when this comes up here, you can choose your basic standards. Good quality, something that's going to go off and be professionally printed. Any of the PDF-X is going to be an international standard for quality printing and color conversion. Smallest file size is something you should never, ever, ever use because it will not include the fonts and it will also reduce the quality of the images down. If you want good quality, like you're going to go to a quick print place, you can switch from high quality to press quality. It's going to give you slightly better quality. I generally use the high quality print because it's a nice balance between being able to print and email it to somebody and not have it be too big. So once I'm done and I like my settings, not much to really choose here. It's going to export the page and I'm going to see it after it's done. I click Export and it runs through the whole thing and fires up Adobe Acrobat and allows me to see everything that's there inside the PDF. And that's how you pre-flight your file, that's how you package your file and get it all ready to send off so somebody else can use. All neat and tidy in a package with all the fonts, all the links, and all of the problems addressed. Any issues of overset text, missing links, missing fonts, style overrides, or spelling errors.